least I have something to talk to.
Aww.
Wow. This just got really sad here right now.
Bring the tone down there, Caleb.
How'd this become my fault?
Your fault.
What did
It's
I
got to
do?
go to your fault.
You broke up the happy
We're
family.
going to put your face on Reddit and with AJ's name next to it so that everybody thinks you're him.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cool.
that is.
I read a lot from our own writers and whatnot about how hateable his face is.
Oh, he does have a punchable face. Yeah, it's
that
true.
face just wants to be punched. I hate to say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and not everybody deserves that, but he does
No.
have. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a fact. It's really not even a judgment of character. It's just some people have punchable faces.
You know what?
know?
I think I just realized why all the campaigns kind of failed online for this.
Because nobody punched him in the face?
They didn't make the punch. Remember the punch the monkey?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally
They
done
should
that.
revive
Yeah,
that,
when you get to
yeah.
punch them, then it takes you to the site to sign the petition.
I'll take that back to integrated marketing.
There you go.
Just scale this back a week. Maybe we can start this over again. All right. It looks like we are live now. Hello, everyone tuning in. This is Trends with Benefits. This is our weekly roundtable tech podcast here at Digital Trends, where we talk about the trending tech topics of the day. And I think you probably all know what they are. We're going to discuss them here in just a minute. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, so we want to hear your comments, your questions. I expect we may have some comments about today's topics, so let us know what those are. I'm your host, Greg Nibbler. So the question that we put up here today is, how will the end of net neutrality impact you? And obviously, if you're watching this show, you probably know what happened, but net neutrality was officially repealed today by the FCC. There's a lot to discuss along with that. We want to kind of talk about what that means going forward, how that's going to impact you, what that means for companies. And there's just a lot to discuss with it. And we do want to see your comments. We're also going to talk about Disney buying Fox Entertainment, 21st Century Fox, which is also a huge deal. So we're going to get to that. And then we're going to end with some Star Wars stuff because we have to end with something light. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But let's get our roundtable cast of characters going here, and then we'll get this discussion going. And to my right,
Adrian Warner, I'm a producer at Digital Trends.
excellent, and
My name is actually my initials are CD.
Which, strangely enough, are my initials, though I go as
I think
the
people are
Whiskey
going to be
Mist.
confused.
the whiskey mist.
You know I'm the Whiskey Mist, right?
The
Oh,
Whiskey
yeah.
Mist?
The Whiskey
I forgot
Mist.
to drop
It is.
Hot Nozzle.
Yep, you're
That's
hot.
true.
Nozzle.
I was
You do
too
get a nickname on this
absorbed
show.
in the news.
And
if you're on here.
Conspiracy Dan.
There it is.
That will cue the sounder for you
we
guys.
need an air
who are on there.
horn.
We do have just a couple of quick questions, so we're going to get into the discussion. I see a lot of people joining in right now. I do want to make note, if you're watching on video, both of you, it seems like we planned having the hats on right here in the middle.
Yeah, I really
It does
missed
kind
I
of
can
look like
remove
that.
mine, though.
The other question is, are we sponsored?
We can swap.
The other question is, are we sponsored by Dasani? Did not realize that. We've got a bunch of Dasani
Slim
water
in
in
that
here.
beanie, by the
There is
way.
not.
All right,
Sorry.
let's get.
You don't want to know what's in Caleb's
It's
coffee.
going to be one of those kinds of shows. All right, let's get to this topic at hand. And again, drop in your questions, your comments. How will the end of net neutrality impact you? Caleb, I know you really want to get going on this. I know you have some things to say.
But
I
he's
can
gotta
see
wait.
you stewing.
He's got to wait a
But
little
we'll
bit.
get to you in a minute because let's go to Dan Goff. No, who would like to start first here? Just talking about what happened today. And again, just what this is going to mean going forward, how this is going to affect us. I mean, there's so many different possibilities of what could go on. I mean, this could fundamentally change the way we interact with the internet. And how, I guess let's start with thoughts. Like, Caleb, do you want
Don't
to
start.
first?
You know what? I'd like
Do you
to
wanna
not
wait?
start with me because I'd really like to hear some other perspectives first. Also, I tend to steamroll everything, so I'm really trying to hold back a little bit.
Okay, we'll let
Let
you
people-
stew a little bit longer, and then
Yeah.
okay, let it build up.
Yeah,
until the dam
this
bursts.
stew is only going to get more funky with time, so let's let it go.
Okay, well,
We
Dan,
either have a lot of fun with Caleb in this podcast.
there's only two ways it can go.
I want to see a steamroller of stewing Caleb.
It looks a lot like Greg Proops in a sort of like a dinner smoking jacket type of thing.
Just
Yeah.
imagine that if you're listening to the podcast at home.
Adrian, I forget your nickname, but you want to...
Hot nozzle.
Hot nozzle,
nozzle.
hot
Hot
take.
nozzle.
My hot take is kind of a light touch, more of a light touch. But this is, I think, gonna from a personal level, this is gonna impact me in a mostly inconveniencing way. But it's really gonna impact people in poorer rural areas that don't have great access to like a range of internet service providers. It's going to harm.
That's a good point.
It's going to harm starting businesses. It's going to harm. It's just terrible.
There's a lot of people out there that cannot vote with their wallets.
Exactly.
In this situation.
And those are the people that are going to be taken out first from, and nobody's been heard anyways. It's the fact that this is a federal agency that's voting against the public good, and I don't know. I'm so worked up about it that I can't really speak clearly on it, but I'm just very upset right now.
And I mean, it's kind of an upsetting thing, and that's a good point. I didn't think about that as far as rural people who don't have access to a lot of different options. Yeah, you're definitely going to be kind of screwed on this. But that's not the only way that it's going to affect everybody. And I see a lot of these questions coming in, so we'll get to these questions here in just a minute. I'll kind of gather these and go through them. But Dan, how do you feel about this? Like, I mean, there's so many different perspectives to look at it from, but maybe from like a business perspective.
So there's the conspiracy Dan thought.
Conspiracy Dan.
And then there's the more realistic thought. The conspiracy Dan is like the whole really like far out there. It allows providers now to do things like, hey, if you want your site available to our users, you now have to pay, right? Like it could be literally like a yellow pages of getting access to our readers and so forth. So like, I think like somebody like Google, YouTube, those guys, and Netflix was already getting hit by this before net neutrality was passed, right?
Yep.
So I see that happening again, but then it opens the doors for them to be even more greedy, right? So, hey, you want to have local, like Joe Schmo coffee shop? Well, we want $10 a month on that, right? Or
to have local coverage, like almost like a cable company or something like that. Like you want access to these. Here's our tiered package for this. You want access to local sites here. You want Facebook. Well, that's this much. All of these different things that could be tagged on.
Amazon. What about like, hey, I'm looking for best 4K TV. How about what? Like if you want your people again to access that. We can block you guys off, basically. I think it's just that type of thing is a little bit more scary. I'm more hopeful, though, in the sense that there's just a lot of idiotic shit happening right now in the world. It's really weird. But I do think that there's people still in positions of power, and especially like the larger tech companies and so forth that aren't in the government, but they pay the government a lot of money to have their voices heard, that can still have an effect here with this type of thing. And also there's always those threats from, I think it was like the Senate or whatever, that they're going to try to block it. So
there's going to be a lot of lawsuits coming through really quickly.
Well, the Attorney General of New York, I think, instantly launched a lawsuit about it.
And Seattle already said that they'll just make up their own law. Basically,
system.
They'll ignore the federal law.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'm not worried about Google. Or Yahoo, or I've never worried about Bing. Nobody does. Nobody worries about Bing or Edge or whatever. But I am concerned about how Comcast, CenturyLink, Verizon, and the thing is, a lot of people get their internet connection through their cell phone provider. It's not necessarily your home-based internet provider that you get your stuff through. So there's a lot of different ways you can be affected, and there's a lot of talk about what they could do. Building the fast lanes, making it more expensive for you to get Netflix in HD or whatever, or selling you what is basically a cable package but for the internet. And we know they love cable packages because they're the cable companies and they make cable packages, for Christ's sake. So that is a definite possibility. It's what they will be allowed to do. Now, what they will actually end up doing, I think, remains to be seen. Comcast has tried to say, "Listen, don't worry about it, guys.
Right?
It's fine. We're not going to do this." And we don't. I don't believe them for a second.
I don't think anybody does.
No.
But I don't think they're going to be quick to act. And I think that. I think Google actually has been a champion of net neutrality from the beginning, and they're also setting up their own internet service. The Google Fiber service is being deployed slowly in different markets. It requires a lot of work. Ryan Wadida went out, visited them in an area where they had deployed it, and they showed them, they've got to like dig trenches and stuff. They're not like CenturyLink laying it over telephone poles and electric poles. They're digging and laying fiber, but they're slowly building this internet service provision network. And I imagine that they will end up being, you know what? You sick of Comcast? You sick of Time Warner? Whatever? Come to Google. We'll provide it for you. And they'll love that because they'll get tons more data out of their users. They will be able to provide a free and open internet. And I really hope that some of the bigger tech companies really do something to turn this around. And the fact of the matter is, this was an Obama mandate, right? It wasn't an executive order or something like that. It wasn't legislation that passed through the House and the Senate. And I think even if if we're going to put like a glimmer of hope out there, then I say it won't be that long until we have a bill that is sponsored and gets some serious support, maybe even bipartisan support. And that net neutrality becomes an actual law. That the FCC can't simply say, you know what, we don't like this one, so we're just going to vote to boot it. And at the end of the day, that's what really bugs me, is the amount of spin they put on this, the way Ajit Pai tried to explain this wasn't a big deal. It was a lot of misdirections. Like, look at these things that happen over here. Nobody's talking about that. Yeah. No, we're not talking about that, Ajit Pai, because what we're talking about is the core issue that you are denying. He's saying that his reasoning for repealing it was, we weren't having a problem before. We didn't need this. It's just unnecessarily law.
Let's fix something that wasn't broken.
Exactly. Right. And so that's what makes me angry. But I think, once the uproar over this settles down a little bit, we'll start seeing some meaningful action in the form of the lawsuits we've talked about, in the form of hopefully some legislation that will be passed through the House and Senate and signed into law. And, that's probably a ways away. We're definitely another president away from that happening.
I was going to say.
We're gonna have to wait.
Another Congress as well, yeah.
I would also say that having the net neutrality repealed, I think, stifles innovation. So, like, if you think about it, cord cutting, which has become a big thing over the past 4 years or so, can you imagine if now, Comcast can penalize you for cord cutting, right? So if you're not signed up for a cable service like our TV channels, then we're going to limit streaming video, and now you got to pay more for being able to stream high bandwidth, high packet type stuff. That's
exactly right. This gives Comcast and Time Warner, which are the two biggest ones, I think, in the U.S. And they have been bleeding at record levels now, customer. And the thing is that in the past, we've always talked about how, yes, they lost all these subscribers, but they also gained all these new ones. Well, that tide has shifted, and at this point, they are losing more than they are regaining. So it's a net loss for them, and that's money that they can't afford to bleed. Look at Comcast. I mean, I'm scared most by them because they own NBC Universal. They make the content, they get the content to you, and they have complete control over it. Like, they're invested with Hulu, which we're going to have to talk about here in a second. And that's the messed up thing.
Which we are going to get to that.
Two huge things happen today, and they are inextricably linked. They are so linked. It's almost like, wow, was this pre-planned? Because what just happened with net neutrality has huge implications on what just happened with Disney buying 21st Century Fox.
Yeah, which we're going to get to that too.
We will.
Yeah, discussing that.
Oh, we'll get to it. All right.
Yeah, because there's a lot to cover here on this.
We may not get to it, Caleb.
Stop messing with me, Dan.
The road you're steamrolling is a long one.
There's a couple of things I want to address here that are being brought up on the chat. I do want to say one thing, though. It's rare that I get to say, Caleb, I appreciate your optimism about
that
legislation is going to pass.
I have to believe that this is going to get better, because if not, then the internet's just going to suck.
The problem is the longer it goes, the harder it's going to be to turn back the clock.
Well, there have been people talking about, you know what? If you screw up the main internet, we're just going to create a new one. And screw all that. And
it'll be taken outside the U.S. The U.S. won't have any power or control over it.
Yep.
That sucks, but if that's what it has to happen, as far as to make it work.
The existing internet will just be a huge Bitcoin mining operation.
It'll be a big blockchain.
And we'll go watch Netflix on the new internet or whatever. You know what I mean?
A couple of comments here that I did want to address, and one just kind of overall sentiment and question that people are asking. Matt wrote here on Facebook, God forbid we go back to rules that existed just 2 years ago. And I think I think that's really underestimating how fast the rate of technology and advancement is. I mean, look at how much more from 2 years ago, how much more we use the internet for everything. I mean, Internet of Things, that was just very at the very start 2 years ago. Who knows what 2 years from now will be? I mean, this stuff is important, and with the way technology moves, you do have to stay ahead, and you do have to stay on.
And you can't really say going back to the rules of 2 years ago, because the whole point was there were no rules.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we put some in place. They're like, here's the thing. This is a utility. This is a metered connection, or it's not a metered connection. There was no rules. There were no definitions. So
and that's why Comcast and those guys got in so much trouble back then. Was they were strong arming companies basically to pay money, which was then at the end of the road, costing us consumers more money and actually again stifling innovation.
Yeah.
So.
And now they can do technically whatever they want as long as they have that thin veil of letting you know about it first, which is just like rubbing salt in.
Here's what I'm gonna do, and let them know.
You're gonna like it whether you
like
it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Another question that I think a lot of people that are chiming in here on Facebook are wondering is how is it going to affect small businesses? It seems like we have a lot of people who work from home or have home offices, and I mean that's a fair question. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Like,
I say it's up in the air. Honestly, if you talk about it, they're losing cable customers, and that's all small, that's individuals, including small business, people that own small businesses. And again, if they can pretty much do what they want, it just depends on when they do it and what they do.
So they have the ability now. They have
the ability now to be like, oh, you want to do video chat? Like, I don't know about everybody else out there, but we do video chat multiple times every day. That's how we do conference calling now. It's not over the phone, it's over video. Well, hey, you want that? That's going to be $5 a month.
Yep.
You want to do it from home? $5 a month.
Right.
You want to be able to play Facebook videos? Oh, $5 a month.
And they do that now. Do you want the
HD
gaming version of that station? You're already paying for the station, but you're not paying for the HD version of the station.
You're not getting 4K yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's $5 more. Oh, you want 4K? That's even more than that. Yeah. And you could potentially pay for the 4K tier on Netflix, but never actually get the 4K version because they won't allow the bandwidth for Netflix. Just for Netflix, they'll shut it down, or you pay an extra $10 a month. See, it's the package. It's the add-on services thing. And what I hate the most about this whole thing is that in an effort to try and get people to call the FCC and say, no, this is not what the people who pay your salary want, like, we gave them a bunch of really great ideas on how to take advantage of this situation. You had a ton of people going, they could do this, and they could do that, and they could do this, and Comcast is probably sitting over there going,
like, yeah,
we hadn't even thought of that.
R&D.
R&D for free. Thank you.
So if you think about small business, and I also would equate small business to normal user as well, is all of a sudden, just like cable TV, you have the sports package, you have, the Hispanic package. Now I see gamer package, streaming video 4K package, you have, small business package, like all this shit that will just be like, oh, we'll optimize your internet so that you can stream better, whether it's video in or video out. We'll optimize it so that your games play better. Like this, they start using bullshit terms of basically just giving you bandwidth and ways to open up the packet.
And think of the market they steer with that power. Like, if they want you to watch, let's have to use Comcast again. They want you to use their TV Everywhere service as opposed to HBO Go or Showtime, which they don't get any kind of a chunk out of that,
right?
Or any other station for that matter. Guess whose advertising reaches the viewer? If they're controlling it, they're steering the ad dollars in addition to everything else. So, they control the impressions that for all of this stuff, which is what advertisers buy into.
Well, they're also now doing the apps within their boxes, right? So you have Netflix within their service instead of as a standalone unit se.
Yep.
So now, hey, all right. Well, now if you want Netflix, you got to sign up for a video streaming service, and you can only use our app within the modem, right? Like, you can only. I mean, it's a way to lock people into them.
I think a lot of this stuff will probably not come to pass. It's just the fact that they
But
they're already
they can
easy as
if they want
they can.
to. Yeah.
And they haven't really been, they haven't shown themselves to be
They have done it in the
consumer centric, fair and level playing field kind of folks.
Nope, they're old. They're old school
old
business.
It's old money.
Yeah,
it's big time old money, and there's a lot of wealthy investors that want to stay wealthy. And like I said, when you're bleeding that many cable customers, how do you get your money back? By sucking them dry through their internet connection. Like if
it's a whole new market.
If TV is going over the internet instead of over a traditional cable connection, they have to parlay that and retain their business and keep making money.
What's the craziest comment we've seen? Conspiracy
I don't know if I'll read the craziest ones,
and like the most like sane one.
I'll
I need
try
the
to
salt and pepper.
Go through here. I'll find some. There's definitely some people who say that nothing's going to change, that this is going to be fine for everybody, and that
I think that's very optimistic.
Pepe says it also allows small ISPs to start up. There's a lot of stuff that I'm probably not going to read on here.
I'm sorry.
People are very passionate about it.
What was the net neutrality rule that prevented small ISPs from starting up?
Yeah,
I don't think that was a thing. Right. Sorry, I love our viewers and our listeners. I really do, most of them. But that's the problem. Is there's so much misinformation about this. People they want to be contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. It's the same reason they are like, your team lost, get over it, kind of thing. It's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is this is an objectively bad thing for all the people. It doesn't matter whether you wave a blue flag or a red flag or a freaking purple flag.
It's not a political issue.
It's objective. Yeah. There's empirical evidence to support everything that's being said right now. So don't.
Pepe disagrees with you.
Yeah, of course, that's fine.
So there are definitely sides to everything, but I think for the most part, everybody is concerned with it. I mean, we do need to get to some of the other topics, which this does kind of tie in. The other big news today, which was Disney, and this has been speculated for a while. We've heard rumors that they were trying to do this. There were other companies trying to get involved, but 21st Century Fox, Fox Corporation, wanted to sell off the entertainment section of their assets, and Disney is the one that got it. I think it was $52.4 billion that they paid for this, and what they're getting is pretty much all of Fox's entertainment section, except the exceptions are Fox Sports and Fox News and their actual, I think, over-the-air broadcast channels. Mm-hmm. Those stay with Fox. Other than that, everything now goes to Disney. And if you think about what that means, I mean, there's so many things that you can't even list them all, but I mean, that's as simple as FX. That is now owned by Disney. The X-Men, Disney now has the rights back to those through Marvel. So now they have the X-Men, Deadpool, Avatar, The Simpsons. I mean, it just goes on and on. National Geographic, all of that is now controlled by Disney.
Last of Us, like really popular TV shows. And not only that, but all the people who make that stuff, the really brilliant writers, the amazing producers, the directors, like they all belong to Disney now.
Yeah, and I mean that is a massive group of creators and shows that they have just acquired. And one of the things that Disney's made no secret about is they are starting up their own streaming service. And this is where I wanted to get with that part, because with this purchase, they now have a majority share of Hulu. And they had planned, Disney is been saying they're going to start their own streaming services anyway, and they have so much content that they could easily do that.
Well, they don't like to share.
They don't like to share. Netflix have been paying a whole bunch of money to have some of those things, and now Fox was already pulling some stuff out of Netflix, and now Disney has Fox, so that stuff's going to go. FX is going, obviously. If they start pulling that content, they are really going to have a behemoth here. And what are they going to do with Hulu? What is this going to mean for streaming? Are they going to break it up and you have to pay for a bunch of different streaming services? Will they give you one massive, like a Hulu-like account where you get all of Disney's properties? I kind of doubt they do that because there's just so much money to be made.
I think, real quick though, like there actually is competition already there with Amazon and Netflix that if they try to break things out like that, You'll have some success, but I think most people, like even just Hulu right now, I don't really give a crap about Hulu, but I know other people will. But
right, I mean, if they get this content on there, then
if they're like, oh, if you want, again, if we think about extreme, like if you want to watch any of the Marvel stuff, it's $10 a month. Nobody's going to do that. I don't think.
You think so?
Oh, I don't. Well, I disagree.
I think. I mean, if it was just the Marvel properties, or just the Star Wars properties or whatever. Then no, but that's the whole point here. So the Murdoch family, a little bit of background, because I think it helps support an understanding of what Disney might end up doing now. But the Murdoch family wanted to sell, according to them, because they didn't think that they were in a position to scale up in order to compete with the Netflixes and the Amazons. They felt that their value they couldn't get big enough, basically, to compete. So they were like, you know what? Our value is as high as it's going to be. We want to cash out and take our money, and by selling this off to Disney, that company will end up having, because Fox wasn't going to buy Disney, so Disney ended up getting the Fox properties, and now the idea is Disney believes it can get big enough to provide competition to Netflix and Amazon, and the reason why is because Netflix and Amazon have more or less redefined what TV means, right?
Yep.
With these serialized dramas that are laid out there all at once.
Yep.
You get to watch them when you want to watch them. It's more than just DVR. You don't have to wait, and there's no cliffhanger, for like with Walking Dead or whatever, where you have to wait the next year,
right?
Or even worse, wait for several months until the second half of the season comes out.
Just the
that
term
stuff still
binge
works. We
watching.
have our Game of Thrones. We've got our Walking Dead. That still works, but going back to Netflix and Amazon, they are redefining how TV is made and how it's delivered, right? And Disney has been slow to get on the streaming bandwagon. They've let their stuff go to Netflix, and I imagine they saw it go gangbusters, and they were like, holy crap, we really are missing out. People would love to stream Disney properties. All right, never mind. Take it back from Netflix, hold it close to their chest, and start preparing their own streaming service, which is why they bought out MLB, which, create streaming platforms and helps get sports streamed out. So with all that put together, if Disney is going to compete against your Netflix and Amazon, they're going to have this massive catalog where you're like, you know what? I can't not have that service.
Yeah.
Which sucks, because now we're building our own cable packages, aren't we? We got to have our Netflix subscription. We got to have our Amazon Prime account, and then we also need to buy into the Disney thing. Now you're up to $30 to $40. You get a lot of content for that money. But yeah, what do they do with Hulu? Are they and how is Comcast going to deal with this? Because Comcast is one of the other big players. Time Warner has like a 10% share or something like that. It's not very significant. But yeah, Disney has the big controlling interest. They can do pretty much what they want to with Hulu. And if that puts Disney at odds with NBC Universal / Comcast, how does that shake out?
Yeah, and that is one of the things. Like, there's so many unknowns with where this is going to go.
But if Comcast doesn't let you stream the Disney service, because they don't have to let you, they can make their money back anyway. See, that's what I'm talking about.
That's the
stuff
whole
is all
net neutrality.
together.
And not even just like block, but just degrade it. Like, so then it's like watching, DVD instead of like Blu-ray or 4K.
Or it takes forever to load,
Yeah, they're going to go,
they're going to optimize their own stuff.
We're not going to not let you watch it, but
yeah.
do you want to?
Do you want better
we're gonna
than
make it
stereo
really
sound? Do you want
unenjoyable,
surround
yeah.
sound? Do you want it to not look like a pixelated block of garbage?
Yeah, and that is exactly, again, like we said, tying it back into net neutrality. I still see some people commenting saying, remember how nothing bad happened before net neutrality.
That is,
it's just
you have very short memories if you say that.
Yeah,
if you don't remember, like having like really bad buffer playing games and lag playing games, or even Netflix where you would get buffering while watching a movie. You didn't have high quality video coming across. In fact, that since net neutrality came into place is when you started getting things like 4K on YouTube, and 4K really starting to take off in general. And that's because Comcast doesn't like people saturating the pipes.
Yeah.
You got to remember that a couple of years ago, before the net neutrality stuff came down, we had less of a need to protect the net neutrality. 4K, high bandwidth content, the way we're seeing with Tidal, high resolution music streaming, all the pipe clogging that Spotify must be doing right now, Pandora, those services have grown exponentially in those 2 years. The amount of bandwidth that is going over those lines that they control has increased exponentially. So it was the same problem didn't exist then that does now. And honestly, that meant that the motivation for a Comcast or a Verizon to step in and change how it's done wasn't as high then as it is now. Now they have even more reason to do it, and they're also losing cable subscribers at a level that they weren't before. everything is different now than it was 2 years ago. And the need for that net neutrality exists more now than it did then, too.
And the other thing, too, is wiring for modern day internet pipes is really expensive.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that's out there is really old. And that's why they had problems before. And with net neutrality, to remain competitive, they had to spend money to make sure that their infrastructure was kind of up to date. I would still say it's not up to date right now. And that's why somebody like Google Fiber, et cetera, has the potential to like offer such a better service because they're starting from the ground up and putting in more modern equipment in. But now with, you know, the net neutrality being repealed, now Comcast doesn't have the motivation as much to upgrade equipment. Like they control the desire, right?
Well, and this goes back to something Adrian opened with, which is that, I mean, we're kind of lucky. Many of us actually have a choice whether we want to go with Comcast or CenturyLink around here. You can play one against the other and get your prices knocked down or play like, the whole I'm going to bail on you thing. Why? Because we can't. We can go to someone else and get internet service from them and play two against each other because there's competition in our area. So many places in the U.S. don't have that. They barely have the bandwidth to support 4K video, if at all. There are rural areas where the only internet you can get is with a satellite dish, and it maxes out at like something pathetic.
And that is exactly what my parents have, because they live out in the country, and that's their only option is satellite. There is no option for unlimited data. Yeah. So even if I go down there and I'm checking, they're like, okay, let's not watch too many videos because we're going to eat up all the bandwidth for the month.
Exactly,
and then it's like another charge.
Metered too. You have a limit.
It's absolutely metered.
To Comcast credit, I have like a 1 terabyte limit per month, and they even let me roll some of that over. It's like rolling your minutes over from back in the day. It's hilarious, right? But I mean, like, I stream a lot of video. Yeah, I am a cord cutter. I still have a Comcast cable card and a TiVo because I test equipment and stuff, but I don't watch that crap. Yeah. We stream everything in my house, and we don't come close to that cap. Is the cap now going to move? Like, I don't know. I mean, so far it's been pretty great for me, and that's why I'm trying to remain optimistic and say, hey, it may not be all doom and gloom. Like, I'd like to see these guys do the right thing and not just completely put the screws to us. But again, the whole point is they can if they want to.
I think the other thing is not to lose sight of how this came about. It was all being bought and paid for by the ISPs. Like, they're the ones that were going to the FCC and lobbying for this. So you got to wonder why. Why would they do that?
Yeah.
What's the purpose to spend money
it's in
to
the
not
interest
do anything?
Of average consumers, of course. That's what,
I heard that it was
people have more
stifling their
options.
growth and it was making it harder for them to do business, but they never really seemed to spell that out adequately for me. And I went and I looked. I'm not just saying, screw those guys, they're terrible. Like, I looked and I just couldn't see like a real justification for it. Whatever. Yeah. I mean, but when we see Disney eat up 21st Century Fox and get all those properties, and now, I mean, my Vudu account is loaded with a bunch of movies. I take those. We were talking about this the other day, right? I'm one of the very few people on the earth that does this. I realize that not a common practice, right? But I take the digital download code out of a 4K Blu-ray combo pack or just a Blu-ray combo pack, and I add it to my Vudu account. And most movies are available that way. So I don't have to have the disc. I could be at a hotel and I stream whatever movie it is I own because it's in that digital locker. Well, right now, Disney movies are not available on Vudu and that platform. You might be able to, with an iTunes tie-in, I think you might be able to do it through iTunes if you do that thing. But 20th Century Fox and 21st Century Fox movies, all available. They're all on my Vudu account right now. I'm just waiting for the day that they suddenly disappear. Like, you own your movie until you don't own your movie anymore. Thank goodness I do have the disc, you know what I'm saying? Because that digital HD version, like whatever terms that was presented under, they're null and void now. Disney owns that stuff. And so it could just disappear.
Yeah. I mean, it will be interesting to see what they do. And there still has to go through some approval process, so we won't really see these assets getting transferred over for another, probably next year at some point. But I don't see it not getting approved.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean,
I don't either.
Nobody stepped in to say, nah, this is probably not going to happen.
Exactly.
Like with
Sony wanted it.
With the Time Warner merger.
Yeah.
Like, they were saying, no, I mean, go ahead and try, but I don't think this is going to go through. A lot
Right.
of people were saying this is not going to really work. Nobody's saying that in this case.
No, and Disney just outbid the other companies that were going for it. I mean, because Sony, I know, wanted them, and a couple other companies were trying to get in on that action. And
They didn't have $54 billion.
$1 billion.
Wrap your head
All right.
around that kind of money. Oh, my
Well,
goodness.
I know we've been going for a while on this, and we could probably talk forever. And I want to thank everybody who's tuning in. We do have just a couple other things. A little bit lighter to end the show with. It's Star Wars Day. I'm going to see Star Wars tonight, and yes, that's a Disney. Now I just realized that I'm talking. I'm
But it's
hyping
been
up the
Disney for a
product.
while.
It is, yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go see the
But
Star
now
Wars
they
movies.
own.
They're
New
going to get
Hope.
my money.
So we'll at least get like a nice box set for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you just put a nice shine on it there.
Does it come with the lightsaber or not?
And you'll be happy for it.
I just want the Yoda voice thing, like how they
That
put
would be cool,
right?
Yeah. All right. That's so we need to get those. I did want to show there was one really cool story that came out this week because obviously this is with Luke Skywalker back and he's got his robotic hand and there's a company, well not a company, it's Georgia Tech University is actually working on and they did a demonstration showing their prosthetic hand that's for this pianist who had lost his hand and now he can play with this unique system that they've come up with, and it does kind of.
That's totally
exactly.
Luke Skywalker, but it's the evil version of his hand because it's all black.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
This is Darth Vader's work on
They
that.
actually they draw a similarity in the video to the whole Luke Skywalker thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the
where they're tapping it and the automatic response.
You can really tell he's nervous though because his hand's totally shaking.
He's not nervous. The robotics are.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess it works with ultrasound instead of connecting to the actual nerves. It can tell where. Honestly, it's a complicated process. You can read it all at digitaltrends.com. But it is pretty cool actually seeing some Star Wars technology come to life.
I like
just
seeing
wanted to
that
put
guy there is not nearly as smug as Mark Hamill was in Star Wars.
There was a lot of smugness.
The
Yeah.
smug look on that guy's face.
Yeah.
He had just been through a really terrible auto accident.
That's
though,
true.
so I guess
There is
they're bad.
there is a drinking game if you watch the original Star Wars,
Of course there
and
is.
every time Luke whines, you take a drink, and it is a lot of drinks.
Oh man!
Pretty
Yeah, I
much
don't know if I
every
could
line of
ever play
dialogue
that.
is him whining during that entire movie. All right, well, we do have one other thing too with the Star Wars that Digital Trends is giving away, and you may have seen this. Columbia has some amazing jackets that they put out that are already sold out that are based on Star Wars. I think this is the Echo base line that they put out, and Digital Trends is giving away the Luke jacket from this line.
Are we giving away the Luke or? Oh yeah, we are giving away
It's
the Luke. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
The Luke one is for the giveaway, and you can enter to do this. It's digitaltrends.com/giveaways. Trust me, you want to win this, and then you want to send it to me. So that's what you should probably do. That'd be.
You
I mean,
tried one on, didn't you?
I did. I tried last year's on, and it was pretty awesome. I will say, for Between the Streams, our entertainment podcast tomorrow, where we'll go more in depth with the Disney Fox, like the actual assets, and talk about what that means for the MCU. We may or may not have the jackets on screen here tomorrow. I heard we will. I can't confirm it, but I think we will. So I'll leave it there at that. This has been an awesome discussion.
Yeah.
There's just so much to talk about this, and this is not going away. And we've got articles about everything at digitaltrends.com. I think a couple of people would probably help them to read those articles and further understand what net neutrality means. And some of you, have a lot of questions. And go there to the website. We've got a lot of stuff on there. Keep this discussion going. You can always subscribe to this podcast, too. That's always a great thing to do. You can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you get podcasts. It's Trends with Benefits. That way you get it every week. Send us an email, podcast@digitaltrends.com. If you have questions, maybe we can forward those on to somebody here at the company that might be able to help you answer some of those if we have the answers to it. But net neutrality, man, it's the new landscape that we live in.
What's the last comment on the Facebook feed?
The last comment is, how will the end of net neutrality affect my actual internet? That was the last comment. Yeah, that's what it was. So,
What is? Yeah, we could still go on about that.
Yeah. We
There's
could
What
go
is
so
your
on
much
worst
forever.
nightmare?
what's your worst night? Yeah, I mean, we may have to do a whole nother show just on this in general, with all of this, with everything that's happening so fast. Because by next week we may know something else, according to this. But that is it for today. So I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in, and thanks for joining us on this Conspiracy Dan. It's always good to have you on the show.
Hey, thank you.
Yes.
I wasn't even here today.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, God. See, now think about that one. Mind blown. All right, thanks, everybody. Tune into Between the Streams live at 2 p.m. tomorrow, and we will be back next week with another episode.